Aubree from Gladstone's Church in Chloe, Florida, and the title of my message today is TBD, and my verses I will be using are Matthew chapter 24, verses 45 to 51, 2 Thessalonians chapter 3:14, and Psalms chapter 135 through 6. Hello everyone, is it okay if I start my sermon today by asking you a question?
Yes.
How many of us struggle with being impatient or being not okay with things not necessarily going on our timing? If you do, it's okay, because by the show of hands, it's a pretty universal struggle, and it's something I struggle with myself as well. But have you ever just sat yourself down and thought that maybe your struggle with impatience stems more from you focusing on your timeline rather than the Lord's timeline?
Yeah.
But enough of what I have to say. Let's get into some of what God has to say. Now, we're going to be reading quite a bit here, but let's dive into Matthew chapter 24, verses 45 to 51. It says, "Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant when the master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, 'My master is staying away a long time.' And he then begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with the drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and in an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place where there will be hypocrites and where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Coming from these verses, it brings me to my first point. When we follow our timeline, we are led down a path of self-destruction. But when we follow the Lord's timeline, we are led on a path of righteousness.
Yeah.
Now, for a backstory, when I found these verses, I was on a family trip in St. Augustine. And we were in this store, and there was a section in the middle where there was a Bible. And like my youth pastor says every time before he preaches, "Lord, speak to me, I'm listening." And I said so, and I opened the Bible, and I opened to these verses. And it hit me like a reality check. Because during that time of my life, I was going down a self-destructive path and doing things completely away from what the Lord was telling me to do. Now, I feel that whenever anyone is told to trust the Lord's timing, they automatically think, "Well, the Lord takes forever." But in Psalms 135 through 6, we are told, "I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than the watchmen wait for the morning. I wait for the Lord more than the watchmen wait for the morning." Maybe it's time for you to, instead of complaining about what the Lord isn't doing in your life, start filling that impatience with intentionality.
Come on.
Because when we work towards following the right timing for our lives, we are working towards following the Lord's timing. But what we need to know is that when we follow the Lord's timing, it is never a definite, which kind of goes hand in hand with the title of my sermon today. Now, TBD usually stands for to be determined. And as I was preparing for this sermon, I was struggling to find a title. But it made me realize that TBD could also stand for something else. And that something else is timing's been decided. Because if we look into our word and we look into what God says about timing, our timing has been decided. From the moment that the cross went up, it was decided. From the moment that there was light on this world, it was decided. But if God's timing has been so right since the beginning, why haven't we been following it since our own beginning? Well, it's kind of hard to follow when there's so many earthly sources telling us how to get what we want so easily. But if we follow the Lord's timing, we will find that we aren't receiving what we want, but receiving what we need. Now let me bring you to one final verse. And this verse is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 14. It says, "Take special note of anyone who does not obey our instruction in this letter. Do not associate with them in order that they may feel ashamed." Now, following the Lord's timing comes with patience, but it also comes with removing those who don't follow it from our lives as well. Because earthly sources will deafen you from what the Lord is trying to tell you. But in order to remove these sources, we need to trust in Him, trust in our Lord, and remind ourselves that our timing has been decided and He is just waiting for us to join Him. Thank you.
Come on.